here I am. I'm just topping up my water reservoir, which you can kind of see in its entirety, kind of, sort of. There. Just straighten this out. Hang on. Okay, that might be a bit better. So that's the top of my water reservoir. Just pull this out of its little holster here, and you'll see water reservoir. There's my little kitchen, and there's my pile of bottles I filled up last night, thanks to the new owners of the place where we used to live, courtesy of. So now, get that straight as I can. Now I'm going to just keep filling, emptying these and filling my reservoir. There. And then it's just back and forth. Back and forth with the water bottles. They've already warmed up a lot just being there since this morning, and it was cold last night. There. Get into a flow after a while. The more times I repeat it. Sorry, you have my back there a bit, but there. Yeah. Silly little splinter in just a teeny little thing, but it's right in the bend on the inside of my thumb, right at the joint. So everything I do just kind of squishes it until I find a needle or a pair of tweezers. I have a feeling it's going to irritate me until then. almost forgot I had you guys there. It's funny. There, just went into my own internal thoughts there. Ah. Whew. Mini workout. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 models. Hastings Highlands water, well water. So extremely amazing water for sure. There. Let's see what level I'm at now. Oh yes. That notched me up that put me up a few notches in water levels. Makes me feel good. Sort of prepped. It was interesting when I became up being prepped. I went to my electrician, Michael Gallows, at one time for a tour, just to see how his place works. It's all off grid. He's got backup everything. By far, I don't fully understand it yet, but it's great. Like, he has 3 years worth of wood, 3 years worth of propane. He's got all these backups. I'm sure I didn't talk about food, but I'm sure he has a backup of food. He's very, very organized and prepared, as many people are out here. I was living on the edge in so many ways. I just could never catch up, especially to be extra prepared. And last year was the first year where I actually had a little extra wood. And it's a good feeling going through the winter. Where am I? Just making sure I'm in there. It's a good feeling going through the winter, knowing that you have more than enough wood, rather than going through the winter, which I've done as well, where I might have enough and it ends up being a little bit less, and then just near the end of the year you start panicking and looking around to find some wood, and if you find it, it costs so much more, and it's just a stressor. What I'm getting at here is my new way of living, and it may be something that other people are already doing, or they're thinking of, or have no interest in. But nonetheless, my sort of nomad's biggest focus, grandest focus, all-encompassing focus is to not overspend. And that means energy, money, whatever. You know, to move through life with a lot more awareness and preparation for unknown future events. And we've had our little jolt. We know now it can happen to us. Always seems to happen to someone else, right? And then it's like, well, it can happen to us. I've had over 20 years of that experience. Well, even more than that, 30 years. 30 years ago, Raven she was in university. She had a little red Sprint. She stopped at a intersection, traffic lights, behind a school bus full of kids. So there's a red light, there's a yellow, orange school bus, a red Sprint right behind it, and some lady studying for an exam claimed she did not see the traffic light, the intersection, the red Sprint, or the yellow-orange school bus full of kids, and drove Raven, wedged her underneath the school bus. So she got the hit from behind, and then the hit from the front, the impact that way. And she had, you know, people talk about that moment where you might die in an accident or do die. And so that moment seemed to take forever, and she saw in slow motion the edge of the school bus crushing through the glass and stopped right here. Somehow, I don't know how she didn't smash her face in. But she had major head injuries, back injuries, neck injuries, and overall sort of PTSD-like trauma. Right away, she didn't get the assistance because of the insurance company in time that she should have got. She started getting it later on when she started unfolding what she should be getting, compared to what the Western medicine model offered, which was pittance. And so things unfolded and continued. This is a real synopsis. I'll go into it in more detail one of the episodes. It's more important for that. But she basically went through 11 years of State Farm Insurance, who were the insurance company for the person who drove her under the school bus. Fought her for 11 years, harassed her and me, came into my studio posing as possible clients, looked around at our place, monitored and photographed books on shelves. So when she got brought into their lawyer, he would do these intimidation tactics. Oh, yeah, and what are you doing with such and such a book on the third shelf of the whatever? You know, everything they could do to intimidate her, including following her to Greece on a trip to see her family. Um, I don't think that should be legal, including someone who came in as a client, won't mention any names because I don't have any absolutes, but I'll just tell you how it unfolded. That person who worked for an insurance company as a neuropsychologist and was also a professor, very charismatic, very friendly, won me over. I really felt like I had a friendship developing. Got a bunch of tattoo work, left massive deposits, and Raven was really skeptical. I was really trusting. And she's going, I don't know, I think this person is working for the insurance company that's screwing me over. Just be careful, you know, what you say and what they ask and stuff. And I'm like, okay, Rave, this is where I think you've stepped a little, you know, overcautious and defensive. But I didn't know for sure. Couldn't say. Left it on a bookshelf somewhere to sit, or like a fruit to ripen. And anyway, long story short, you tell me what you think it would be. That person who was around a lot, it was my 50th birthday where I had a party arranged and I found out Raven had a brain tumor. Now, the tumor was the size of a tangerine. Raven had been misdiagnosed. She had been coming in with lots of problems leading up to that, and the best the doctor could come up with was that it was early menopause. So she was taking Furanol and with caffeine and various natural treatments for hormone balancing and stuff. And I remember at one point just thinking, like, gosh, she's taking all this medication to kill the pain. Like, why can't she just go in for a CT scan just to rule out the chance that she's killing a message that's trying to tell her something with the Furanol? But that didn't happen. And anyway, long story short, she ended up having to have her brain tumor found and removed. And one of the surgeons said it must have been about 10 years in the growing, or else it would have killed her getting that big. It had to grow very slowly. And wouldn't you know it, that 10 years went right back to the accident. So that's an interesting point. Not jumping to conclusions. No conspiracy theories here, folks. Move on. Nothing to see here. That kind of thing. So I just put that all behind me. We got out of that situation and got out of Toronto and we moved to Fergus. And that's when later she found out that she had a brain tumor. And so I had that removed 2011. Lots of stress. She was not the same after the surgery, as most people wouldn't, especially brain surgery. And it was a long healing period. You could say really it hasn't stopped. And although now she's sort of, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of situation. And that influenced our decisions on moving out here. I wanted to find, she had no enthusiasm after this left side of the brain surgery, tumor removed, and I was trying to find something that would get her back interested, because she was always just had her teeth into something. She lived with depth and commitment and integrity, and she just didn't. She would observe a TV show or something, and that was it. I couldn't get her to react to things, and it was like, how do I get Raven back? And anyways, long story short, I ended up showing her little baby alpacas called crias, and that was what got her all excited. And I found a place, and we ended up buying 2 crias, and that ended up leading to us getting a much bigger property because we needed it, and overspending to get this barn, which we were quoted, roughly quoted by the people we got the alpacas from, grossly misquoted on the amount that we would have to spend as part of their sales pitch to sell their alpacas to us. I mean, that's what people do, right? If they're selling something. But I won't give them very many marks for integrity, I'll tell you that much, and honesty. So anyway, long story short, we ended up here rushing through things, trying to get the barn built with the help of a lot of people who gave us money up front ahead of time for their tattoos in exchange for a deal, and for just feeling good that they were helping us get this barn done for the alpacas. And anyway, long story short, give you an example, it was very expensive to keep them, to raise them, to keep them healthy. Hours and hours. I would work a long shift, finish at midnight sometimes, and have to go out and spend an hour and a half watering the alpacas, cleaning up their stables, and feeding them, and playing with the dogs. And sometimes that would be meaning to go out in minus 40 and just get out there and go. And I knew if I even thought about not wanting to go, I wouldn't go, so I couldn't even afford to not want to go. I had to just get out there. And so, timeline. So a lot of our decisions were formed for me trying to create an environment for Raven to be happy in, and not knowing how long life lasts, especially after a brain tumor scare, and many clients I've had who have passed on due to cancer and other situations, health situations. I know that life is very precious and not ever seeming long enough. So I wanted to go out of my way finding some environment for as long as Raven would be around, as long as any of us would be around, to have the fullest experience. I didn't think it was going to turn out to be such a hardship. To me, clearly, the people who sold us the alpacas didn't give a fuck. They just wanted to make their money, which showed at the point where we were not ready. We didn't have the barn finished or the fencing, and these people, very well-known alpaca breeders and salespeople, that's what they make their money from, duping people into buying them. And they just tried to push them on us, and Raven's like, we're not ready yet. It was good over $20,000 worth of alpacas that we spent that money over a 4-year period, while we're trying to sell the house. So now we had to get a place that we could handle having these alpacas and build a barn for it. Now these people were saying, oh, you don't need a barn, you could just have them in a run-in shelter. Well, not out here especially, maybe in Niagara Falls or something, or Pelee Island. But anyways, we got really used in that situation, and it was our own fault, our own situation, but people did capitalize on our vulnerability and enthusiasm and Raven's disability. She didn't have the capacity that she had before for multitasking and being as discerning. She had other things that were more important, like healing, rather than taking on the levels of stresses that she used to take on easily in university. I mean, she was a star student and had to stop university after her car accident and make a change to her life. And she ended up learning the healing modalities that she found worked for her, and then teaching them to others, passing them on to others. So anyways, 2011, so then we tried to sell the place and succeeded. 2016, we moved to this area in the bigger place. It was too much for us. We spread ourselves too thin. And with only me working, Raven on disability, it was very difficult. Managed to make it through, hold somewhat stable. Then I started to do a tattoo tour, soul print tour, tattooing out of people's places from everywhere from Fergus to Toronto to Collingwood, Aurelia, everywhere I could go for short periods of time to work and make enough money to pay my bills. And it was really difficult because I couldn't just sell the house like you might do in a city. It seemed forever to sell it because it was such a unique place. It was an amazing place, but how many people want a 6,000 square foot house with massive basement and garage and so on? So we finally sold the place, and now we're here. I'm just about made it through when lockdown happened, and I was forbidden to work by the government. Great. Forbid me to work? Well, either give me a training program to retrain, reskill. I have areas that I would work well. If you had an aptitude test, you'd know I would work well with anything creative, and then I could go for even online training, something. Give me a grant, give me a loan, give me something, give me training, give me an incentive. Give a shit about your citizens, Trudeau. Give a fuck, a little fuck, except for about yourself. So anyways, here I am, forbidden to work, and had to do a crash landing. And if I push away all my fears and insecurities and self-judgments that came up at various times, I know within myself that I did everything I could do, and it's not because of me. I have brought in enough money for the government, paid in taxes over 40 years, to make them very happy, and very minimal use of the medical system and others. Quite independent in who I am and my health. Raven had some unfortunate situations. I believe it all stemmed mostly from that car accident that was so unjustly dealt with as well. But you move on, not complaining. Situations happen. So here we are. Lockdown just blew a gasket. I had to crash land. I think I did a pretty good job considering 60 years old. And here I am, crash landed in a metal shed on a little piece of land that I don't know, the universe directed me to choose to hang on to without ever knowing the situation. And that's why I believe in something bigger and greater than me. One of the reasons. Also, my creativity keeps me connected to that source, that wholeness. I stray and reconnect. It's not like I'm there all the time, but I am aware of that connection, that heart-based soul print connection that I work my fullest to help bring others into position with their soul print tattoos. So that's the source of some of my frustration with our situation is I'm working hard. I'm doing everything I can possibly do, and I'm not complaining, and I'm going to make as much fun out of it and creative expression as I can, which is what I'm passing on to you guys. But to be really frank, I don't agree with how we and many others are treated, and that is part of why I have such a difficult time. Part of the reason why. Of all these people so hook, line, and sinker hypnotized by this. And that's not saying that COVID-19 does not exist. I'm just saying that when the cure, the casualties from the cure, so the reported cure, which I will argue against as well, but that supposed cure, the casualties from lockdown outweigh any value of the thing itself. There's a problem, and that's part of this video, is to show that more people have lost their lives, more people have committed suicide, more people have had strokes, more people have had everything from shingles repeating over and over again. A friend of mine has had shingles in their mouth, I think 5 times since lockdown started. What is going on? We don't really know. I'm sure there are some that know, at least more than we do, but there seems to be so much misinformation scattered around now as a tactic. And if you read up on the art of war, and I don't mean the book, but just in general, that is a war tactic. You flood the place with misinformation so no one knows what's up and what's down,
dose people with fear, then give them a carrot, then dose them with fear, then a carrot, and then fear, and then a carrot. And before long, and then of course a few other little organized events to separate and divide. Won't name those groups. Uh, and you've got a silent war on your hands. I know quite a few people who have had strokes. Nothing to do with getting COVID. It's to do with the whole stress of the lockdown and whatever else is within that situation. These are very real situations that I'm speaking about. This is not an interpretation. I have my interpretations of that information, but this is the real stuff. And that's why we're here. And I think I've done a pretty damn good job of crash landing the plane with as least amount of casualty as possible. And that's with Raven being in the plane in a serious health crisis. And then, of course, I meet with situations like this, and people wonder why I get frustrated, where it should be the least that I could have a friggin' trailer park home. Something that I never thought I'd ever want, but it's a necessity. And I can't even get approved for financing for $30,000 with a $10,000 deposit, when it was only a few years ago that I was approved easily for an over $700,000 mortgage and other loans. Never had a problem getting them. I had a great credit rating. I spent a lot. I borrowed a lot, spent a lot, earned a lot, kept it flowing. They loved me. Canada loved me until I got forbidden to work under penalty of massive fines and disgrace and people thinking I'm a murderer and whatever else that would happen if I did that. And so here I am, making the best of it. But do you see my point? That I should not be in this situation. I should not, it should be illegal. It should be a disgrace. It is a disgrace. And I have phoned Ford's office, I would say at least 30 times, got sub-satisfactory responses. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a shit. They didn't know what was unfolding next. They just enforced the rules that they put down. I applied for a small business grant. You'd think for a small business crash landing like this, who had such a great record, I net once upon a time, not long ago, 5 years ago, I net $200,000 a year, and that's coming just from my work, my tattooing. I had people working for me, but the net came out after before expenses is 200,000 plus. Within 5 years, not to my choosing or liking, I am prevented from doing what I do and penalized. So I end up having this massive crash landing. Anyone I've called up, I call up my MPPs, Doug Sloan. Oh yeah, we feel for you. And we'll call you back. Oh, we've got to get onto another line. Call you back. Never call me back. I'm kind of annoyed with them too. I don't feel that they're doing that much. I don't get much support whatsoever. No, here, try calling this number for welfare. Great. That's a great answer. And anyway, so back to that application for a small business grant. I would think I would be one of the first that they would find would pass and get this grant. And nope, didn't meet their guidelines, gave no excuses or reasons why, just after making me wait for fucking a month or two, and impossible to get back to someone to ask, which is another thing, and having to sit on the damn phone for hour upon hour upon hour going through voice jail, reminding me at every moment about COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19. Then I go into any grocery store that I have to go to shop. COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19. Walk down the streets, COVID-19, COVID-19. Now it's like got to the point where people are wearing masks, riding their bike down the road, 300 miles from anyone else. Driving their car, they're only one in the car, they're wearing a mask. It's become an absolute insane fucking mess out there, and we're being led by this asshole prime minister and fucking Ford premier piece of shit is what I call him. And I get no support. I get support from individuals. I get people saying, "Oh, you know, it's tragic that you're in that situation." But the ones that can help, the government, my MPP, and others, I get nothing. They're impotent. They are fucking impotent, or they have ulterior motives. Ford, for example, has a nice new business that he opened up during lockdown where I heard something to do with vacuum sealing frozen dinners that people now need to buy en masse. So he's got his investments. He doesn't want this to end. He's raking in the dough. So while those folks, Trudeau, Ford, Tam, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, and others all just load their pockets with gold and massive amounts of power, we get this. And what pisses me off the most, and that's when I get angry, in my situation, having a tippy toe on rice paper, I'm treated like I'm a leper or a convict when I try and just get a roof over my and my wife's head in a fucking secondhand trailer, only 5 years after I was like a star Canadian business owner, you know, putting lots of money into the system. And none of that counts. None of my past counts. They just want to know right now, what am I making? I apply for this financing. Well, what are you making right now? 0. Oh, sorry. Nothing about, well, why are you not making any money? There's nothing that the government says, well, okay, well, when they ask about this, put this in, and that gives you special consideration because you would have been making money and you would have been approved, but now you're not because of us, because of COVID, whatever. It's fucked up. And until others start to speak out and tell their truth, which is what I'm attempting to do here, you know, there's many levels to what I'm doing. And one of the things I'd like people to come to realize, I think a lot of people have judged me with my opinions without knowing what is the source of what my views are, and what are the sources of what my views are. And that's an aspect of what I want here. That's why I'm being brutally honest and transparent, is because you'll get the message through multiple videos here. It's not a message through a couple of words. I'm revealing what and who I am in all my honesty and authenticity and my situation and circumstance. I'm not complaining. I'm laying it on the table for you to weigh out and you to resonate with or not. That's your choice, whatever. But what my point is, this is absolute bullshit. It's unacceptable. This lockdown is a pathetic excuse of what the Western medical profession is good for. I think it's good for nothing. Anyone with an MD after their name or before their name or some kind of PhD or anything, that does not win my respect. The individual, no matter who they are, what color their skin is, what background, I don't give a shit. It's who you are, your energy, your authenticity, that's going to win me over or make me push you away. None of this surface bullshit that we get so caught up in, like color of skin. You know, I have friends from every background, every culture, every skin color, every height, every eye color, every background, and they have become friends over a long period of time as they show their colors and either draw me to them or not. It's a resonance thing. It's a heart-based connection that I feel over time. And that's where I am, and that's what Nomad is dedicated to, is to diving into those flames rather than running from the storm. Face the storm. Do not run for cover. That inner storm within you Face your fears, and only you will remain. If you do not face your fears, you will never know in this lifetime who and what you are, and what a. It would be sad. It's very sad to not, to live a full life and not find out who you really are, your authenticity and stuff. Living a lie, living a distortion, just trying to be what they expect you to be, just to earn brownie points, just to be accepted, just to not be blacklisted, all that kind of stuff. I don't accept it, and I don't have to accept it, and I will stand within my power, whether it influences how easy life is or not. I am not going to be a prostitute to anyone's pressures and bullshit. I don't care who they are. And I'm not going to back off to anyone accusing me that I'm an idiot because I'm opposing a call from the government or Western medicine, Big Pharma, Bill Gates, whoever. To that perspective, that blunt way of seeing things, I'm not speaking to a person, I'm speaking to a perspective. It's fuck you. Fuck you. I don't have time for that bullshit. And I'm not going to bend. And I'm not going to, stick my head in the ground and my ass in the air and ask for, 3 paddy wags, please, sir. That kind of shit. So anyways, that's my rant. Time to get back to work.